we made it back for another one. A lot has happened in my YouTube creation world this week, and I'm going to share parts of it, and you let me know if you can relate to any of this. So, if you might notice that I put thumbnails up, and I put thumbnails up, I think, in the way that some people put on amulets. There are some folks out there who teach about protecting ourselves with certain things like clothes, colors, sigils, jewelry, head coverings. And I felt like I like the visuals and thumbnails the way that I like to do them. It's a way that I get to feel like an artist, like a traditional artist. But also, it's like putting a veil down over me, which I was really feeling the need to have. I also got a glimpse of the possibility that there will come a time when I won't need that anymore. But for this period of time, I want to stay in this. So I'm doing things that help me stay in it and have peace as I'm doing this, because this is difficult. So you may notice that I added thumbnails. And I was looking back further into previous years, and I was really struck again by something that I've been struck by before. And that is how much my face has changed and how much my spirit, like the spirit of my voice, has changed. And if you go back and take a look at some of these older videos, 2 to 3 years, videos that are 2 to 3 years old, you will notice what to me feels like a huge difference. Like I went from being shiny and bright and very, very confident and clear. Even if I went off on tangents, which is something that I do. I have notes today to help me keep my points. So I started feeling really terrible, which I have been through before. Whatever this season of life is for me, there's the obvious getting older and all of the biological things that come with that. But there is something else happening in my psychology and in my spirit body that I don't understand. I don't have that information yet. I do feel very strongly that this process, this video journal, that's how I've come to think about it. And that's because I'm not bullet pointed. I'm not crisp. I'm not hyper produced. So it feels more like my journals. And it's an important part of whatever it is that's really working to move into visibility right now. So I was confronted by this earlier version of myself that I'm just now realizing I had moved, and so my physical environment was disrupted, but just listening to myself, I could hear the conviction and the clarity, which I have been struggling with, a sense of a lack of clarity for years now. So it's interesting that I looking back on her, I felt so clear. And I think that there are others out there like this, others of us who had so much experience, I'll say it that way, so much experience or routine or habit in a particular area of our life that we knew it. We knew it, we were it. You know, I was going to say knew it like the back of our hands, but I didn't want to be so cliche. But it is. We were so comfortable, even in our discomfort. Whatever that thing was that you had been inhabiting for so long just came natural. And when you spoke about it or when you did it, the people hearing it just knew that you meant what you said, that it was real for you, even if it wasn't real for anyone else. And so, why I'm sharing this piece of my seeing myself and feeling what feels like such a long distance from the way I was showing up 2 or 3 years ago. There's just a couple of directions that I've been going with this. First of all, I haven't had the energy. Like, I haven't had the energy to hold a thought together. Some of you might be struggling with the ramblingness of my conversations right now. But prior to this moment, when I started picking up these videos again, I couldn't seem to hold a thought together. And I'm being very broad in that, but not enough to sit here and then share it with strangers. No way. So what that translated into for me is I did not feel like I had a contribution to make. And that is one of the hardest things for me to not feel like I have. That person in those videos, even though I can remember what she was struggling with. Even 2 years ago, I was still struggling with, I don't know what my place is anymore. I knew what my place was up until 2017. And then after 2017, I started making some choices, and then life started happening in certain ways. And I went through a very extended period of dissolution. We'll just call it that. And I've mentioned this before, and maybe in other videos we'll talk about it a little more deeply. But what I'm saying is, even looking back to that 2 to 3 year old version of myself, even though I know that she was struggling with what is my contribution, what is my message, what is my mission, she still had enough conviction about the things that we were talking about. And I'm talking about myself in like the third person and all of that, but it kind of feels that way sometimes. So my point to you is, if you are finding yourself anywhere in this conversation having a loss of sense of self, purpose, meaning, conviction, I'm going to encourage you to consider that is a necessary place to be for whatever in you is seeking evolution, seeking a next level. And I just did this motion, but I don't know I don't know which way the levels are going. We tend to think in like this hierarchy, but like there's just expansion out. For those of us who are called onto the quest of losing ourselves, it is a terrifying experience, especially living in a culture that expects us to know things, especially about ourselves. What I am suggesting, and I'm still in it, what I am suggesting is that there is a place, and there is a necessary place in our society for this experience. One of the reasons I believe this is going back to what I said in a previous video. Hopefully I'll put these videos out in order. So if this video comes out first and you hear about this in the future video, just understand things. There's a stack up happening in my video file. What is happening all around us on planet Earth right now is requiring at least some of the population to willingly be in the all kinds of words are coming together. The cauldron, there's this beautiful word solve that I'm sitting with. It's a word that I'm learning, getting to know this word. But dissolution, of dissolving, of coming undone. That was a phrase that I wrote for years between 2017, and up until recently, it felt very present. Now I'm looking out at the world and the institutions that we're used to, and I'm like vibrationally, like I'm applying this word to what I'm hearing and experiencing around me in terms of constructs being at least challenged. They seem to be coming apart. So anyway, if you are someone who's in this experience and willing to continue being in the experience, I believe that we have a contribution to give. For myself, I have come to understand that I'm not going to know what that contribution is until I start putting myself out there visually and verbally again. I used to do this. I used to love doing this. And I didn't take myself so seriously when I did it. Like something has happened in my brain. Things have become so serious. I've always been a serious like child and person, but there's a layer of seriousness that I've been introduced to in myself that is just suffocating sometimes. So maybe another aspect of myself, another layer of the onion that is presenting itself to be reconsidered. I'm not entirely sure, but I want to encourage you, if you're out there suffering and struggling in the woods of whoever and whatever you were and are yet to be, because that's, I mean, deep ocean too, like that black, cold, void, terrifying deep ocean. I'm just offering these as some sensory anchor points. You know what it feels like for you. And if you don't, you can tap into those visuals that I just offered. And if they're useful, use them until you come into your own. I don't know what my message is. My message used to be spirit embodied in the physical flesh. And I helped get that message out by being a body worker, working with the energy centers, learning how to find multiple ways of meditating, which for me was creating receptivity in my system so that I could hear more deeply and be more available to the people, places, and experiences in my life. I did it through nutritional counseling when I added that piece to my practice. I did it through dream work and my divination practices that I shared with others. And then all those things were challenged. Just like when I was much younger and the challenge to my religious upbringing just started coming up within me. And I had to deal with that for years and years. That's a story for another time because I think that's actually connected with something I'd like to share. I'm gonna leave the video here. I actually have a list of things and I would like to get to them, but I don't want to, I want you to be able to have time to sit with some part of what I've shared. And if you felt it in your body or your brain, or if your skin, you know, if some part of you came to attention with some word or phrase that I said, that's something to pay attention to and go sit with it. And then when you're ready, come back and we'll pick up the conversation. I would love to hear from you if something that I'm sharing is helpful, if you have something that you would like to share that might be helpful to others, I would like to invite you to speak up in the comments. Yeah, until the next time.